Hi, everyone. This is Gina Alexanders, your legal career coach, bringing you the March Career Confidence Corner. And this month's topic is consistently growing your professional network. Through these monthly videos, my goal is to be able to offer legal professionals the skills, the knowledge, and the confidence that they need for their career success. So in this video, we are going to be looking at three topics. The first, as it says on the agenda, is what is your professional community, also known as your network? The second is why is a professional community important? And the third one is how do you successfully grow that professional community or network? And before we get started for this month, what I wanted to say is let's do a recap of the previous two versions or of the previous two videos that we have looked at. In January, we started off with the theme of deeply reflecting and knowing yourself, the importance of reflecting, taking time to really think about what is important to you, what your values are, what your priorities are, and what your skills are. And once you have that awareness, then thinking about and understanding clearly learning your legal landscape, being able to have that navigation map. Once you have a sense of what your values are, having that navigation map to move forward. If you haven't already watched these two videos, I'd encourage you to check them out on my YouTube channel. Log on to @Gina Alexandra's Career Coach on the YouTube channel, and feel free to subscribe as you get notifications for more resources and helpful information in the coming months. So let's get started. The first topic that we have with this month is what is your professional community? As I said, also known as your network. We sometimes worry about the word network, and I've heard people being so concerned about not wanting to network, to build a network, feeling that it feels yicky, feeling that it feels unnatural. And I wanted to take a look at a couple of meanings, definitions. We're lawyers or soon to be lawyers or lawyers for a long time, and definitions are very important in what we do. So I looked at the Oxford Dictionary, and the noun definition for network is a group or system of interconnected people or things. And from the Cambridge Dictionary, it's people that you know, considered as a group, whose members exchange information with each other. So I think of our network as a professional community, as I've used in the theme topic below. And notice something really important with both the Oxford and the Cambridge Dictionary definitions of the word. It is, first of all, an exchange and interconnection. It's a two-way exchange. It's a two-way relationship. It's not one person giving and one person taking. There's giving and taking on both sides. It's interconnected. And it's with people that you know or considered as a group. And it's a system of interconnected things. And so when we think about our professional community, really think about it as an opportunity for you to connect different possibilities, different people in a way to mutually grow yourselves professionally. Whatever the definition, it's not something to be afraid of or nervous about. We all have communities. We all have communities as we'll explore further. And when we start thinking about it as simply a professional community, that idea of our network and developing our network might come a little bit easier. So sometimes when we start people thinking off, I just want to get some ideas of professional community. Take a few moments, pause the video here if you want, and think about the communities that you're already a part of. So if you want, just press the pause button here, take a piece of paper, and write down the various communities that you're a part of. Don't discount or disconnect with any possibilities of the communities that you're a part of. Take a moment, and when you're ready, come back. So if you took that time to think about it, what were some of the groupings that you would think of? The first that comes to mind always are family and friends. And we sometimes don't think about our family or friends as being part of our professional community because we may not have lawyers in the family or among our peer group. And we may think, well, how can they be potential professional community members if we don't have lawyers in our family? And what I always say to clients and to lawyers who are starting to think about their network is Don't discount the personal communities that you have already at your availability. Your cousins or your friends may very well know of people or opportunities that are really supportive of what you want to do, and therefore thinking about your personal community as a stepping stone to additional growth in your professional community is something we should not discount. I don't know how many times I've heard people say, but I don't have any people who are lawyers in my family, only to speak to them and to realize, oh, you know what, so and so knows somebody who is a lawyer or a legal assistant or a real estate agent who needs lawyers, et cetera, et cetera. And so don't discount family and friends. The other group that comes to mind for most people are classmates. So if you have gone to law school here in Canada, for example, your cohort of classmates is really an important professional community that you were a part of. And not just your classmates directly, but the people who may have come after you that you got to know, and the alumni of the school that you're a part of. But don't stop just at the law school. Of course, think about as well your undergraduate or any graduate programs that you may have studied at, and think about if you want even as far back as high school. I still get together with my good high school friends twice a year, and it might only be twice a year, but we get to catch up. And sometimes there's a need that one of us has that becomes apart from the personal need that we have to bond, there's a professional opportunity that comes up as well. If you studied law outside of Canada, look into both your cohorts who might be here in Canada as well together with you that you may have lost touch with, or alumni from your university or from your law school that you may not have realized are also here. There's a great way of finding alumni support in Canada if you did get your law degree from somewhere else. Think about work colleagues. That would be another part of your community, professional community. So your work colleagues past and your work colleagues present. The work colleagues might be in law or they might be in something completely different. Just as we said with the other groups, don't discount a community member because they're not law or law related. Because A, they may have legal needs down the road where they need your input or your advice down the road, or they may know of people who can help support you in some of your goals as well. And the other groups that come to mind when you think about your professional community that aren't right away considered by many lawyers are groups such as athletic groups or sociocultural groups or religious affiliations or interest-based groups. So what I mean by that with sports, think about the volleyball team that you're on every summer down at the beach over the course of 18 weeks, or think about the mosque or church or synagogue that you're a part of, or think about the cooking class that you've been a part of, or the photography class that you've been a part of over the last little while. All those bring together people who share common interests with you. And therefore, that should be sort of a starting point in your platform to think about your professional community. And of course, there are the lawyer groups that you then become a part of that we'll talk a little bit more about later on. Those aren't your first step, though. All these other groups are part of the potential communities that you can think about as you're growing your network. So I want you to think broadly about who is in your network that you may incorporate as part of your professional community. So let's go to the second topic. The second topic is why is a professional community important? And there are really three reasons that I want us to look at in terms of the importance and the relevance of professional community. And now here we think about those who are part of that professional world of ours. Three items that I want us to focus on. One is competence, the other is pipelines and opportunities, and then the third is support. So competence first. I want us to talk about competence. We have an obligation, a responsibility as licensed lawyers in the province of Ontario to ensure that we are providing services competently. That is one of the rules of professional conduct, and we have that obligation. And so how do your professional networks support your development, your substantive development? Well, there's a couple of ways. First of all, they may be able to tell you about uh, continuing professional development activities that might come up. Or you can run ideas by them if you're having a question. Your mentors, your supervisors, your former classmates, you might have a really pressing legal issue that you need to bounce some ideas off of. And of course, confidentially, you're able to explore possibilities with other people. Your professional community is also important in terms of competence because that's where you might have conversation that can spark an idea, a new legal analysis, a new thinking over a problem that you've got on a deal that you may not otherwise have stumbled upon if you're acting solo on your own. Even if you are a sole practitioner, that community that you have can generate so much support for you in terms of establishing, developing, and enhancing the competence that you bring to your practice. The second reason why professional community is important is because of the opportunity to provide pipelines and opportunities. What do I mean by that? Why am I using both words? So if you are in private practice, your network can potentially offer you the pipeline for future clients and future work. If you know an accountant, or if you know a real estate agent, or if you know a teacher who may be involved in various activities, or if you know a business person, for example, all of those who are in your professional community can potentially one day refer business to you. And don't discount, part of your professional network is also your previous clients. Referrals are wonderful sources of pipeline and new business by having somebody compliment you, by recommending you to their friends, family, and colleagues. And so developing those pipeline relationships is really an important factor and an important result that comes from creating and enhancing your professional community. And I also use the word opportunity in this because for some of you, what that pipelines may be important, but perhaps you're not in private practice. And the opportunities that come up may be future jobs, future projects that you can work on, whether it's internal to the organization or external if you're looking to make a career change or a career pivot. So being able to have a really broad professional community is very, very relevant to the opportunities that come before you, both in terms of jobs, in terms of clients and projects. So keep that in mind as in terms of why you want to build a broad, vast professional community. The third reason, of course, is because of support. And what I mean by that, not the competence that we were talking about earlier, but your well-being. Having a community that understands the experiences that you're facing, having a community that understands the times when you need to perhaps vent, perhaps celebrate successes, or perhaps just really needing to bring you up if you're feeling down. Those supports are absolutely critical. And remember, part of competence includes the ability to do the work that you're hired to do. And if for whatever reason your well-being, your own personal well-being is suffering, not being able to rely on supports to elevate that well-being can very well impact your competence. And that's something that you don't want to have happen necessarily. So relying on and reaching out to people in your professional community who could support you in various ways is quite relevant to your success. As we think about this law, as with many other professional services, so not just law, but we'll take law as our example here, it's based on relationships, isn't it? If you think about for a moment how many people are involved in your day-to-day activity, it's all based on other individuals. So being able to think about those as part of your group, and not everybody will be a specific professional community member for you, but you've got clients, you've got colleagues, you've got supervisors, you have people that you work with, you have, if you're a litigator, the court system, the judges, you have opposing counsel, you have experts that you might deal with, you have business services providers, for example. There's so many people that you deal with, just to name a few right there, that it's important to think about how you engage with them, how they engage with you, and how they can support the work that you're doing. In a previous coaching newsletter that I received about a year ago or so, the topic was connection and belonging. And when we think about why a professional community is important, it's both for us individually and for the organizations or the systems that we're a part of. And I love the quote that was listed in this newsletter, and I just want to read it out right now. Connection generates a sense of belonging among a group of people who together feel safe, feel heard, and feel valued. It's an important and often overlooked contributor to organizational success. And I would suggest here that not just organizational success in terms of an employer or a business setting, but organizational success as well in terms of the broader system that we have in the legal profession. The ability to feel safe, heard, and valued, quite relevant, and connections, that community that you create is really important. So when we think of our networks as well, I also want you to remember that not everybody has the same degree of connection with you, and you don't have the same degree of connection with everybody else. There might be people in your network that you speak with and engage with daily. There might be some who are more weekly or bi-weekly connections. There might be others that you touch base with once a month or maybe even once a quarter. And then there are other people, as I mentioned, my high school classmates and friends who I only see twice a year. Sometimes it might be over a year that you haven't connected with people. An example that I give of the network that I have that it took longer to for me to realize and appreciate the value of that network comes in this way. When I was working at one higher education institution, I had colleagues and friends at another institution that I would touch base with. There was no law school at that time at that particular institution. We would have lunch periodically with a couple of different people. I'd find out what they're doing, they'd find out what I was doing, just staying connected and learning about what was going on in each other's professional and personal lives, depending on the level of personal friendship that you have with them. Well, about 3 or 4 years later, once that, after we had started the developing the relationship, that's when an opportunity arose at that institution that none of us had thought about necessarily 3 or 4 years earlier when we were establishing that relationship. And that opportunity turned out to be a phenomenal opportunity that I had for the next 10 years. So you never know right away what might come from that professional relationship. And being genuine, being curious, and being consistent with those communities that we're building is really important. And as I said at the beginning, making sure that it's flowing both ways. So not only are you receiving, or not only are you taking information, advice, support, but you're also offering that to others as well. And so I think it's really critical to remember, number one, that the relationships don't always have to be the same degree. They don't have to be the same intensity. And these are relationships that you're cultivating for the long term, not the short term. Let's look at the third topic in terms of, okay, how? We know the definition of a network or a professional community. We know that they're important for various reasons, but how do we go about doing it? We're busy doing our legal work. We're busy reporting to a supervisor or running our own practice. But how on earth do we build our community successfully? And here's a few things to think about doing. The first one that I wanted to raise is whenever we talk about building your professional community, do so authentically. What do I mean by that? Find the things that you enjoy doing the most that resonate with you. I'll give you an example. I've tried golfing a couple of times. I am not a golfer. I am not going to enjoy nor get any benefit from or give any benefit to any engagement that I have while on the golf course. With all due respect to everybody who loves to golf, and I really, really enjoy hearing people's interactions when they do enjoy golf so very thoroughly. That's not something I enjoy. So I look for things that I enjoy. I love reading and I love books and I love conversations. And so I created a book club, for example, to talk about career conversations about books. I love public speaking, so I'll look for events, or I love lunches and dinners with people, for example, small events together and larger events. Find the things that you want to do that work for you. So what are some of those examples within the legal context? So first of all, join professional groups of interest. There are so many in the Ontario area, and I'm sure across Canada as well. So they could be the Ontario or Canadian Bar Association, for example. They could be the regional professional associations like the Toronto Lawyers Association, the Peel Law Association, et cetera. Depending on where you are jurisdictionally, there are associations affiliated with that geographic area. There are cultural groups. I'm a member of the Hellenic Canadian Law Association, but there's SABA, there's FACL, there's the Hispanic Law Association. There's a number of culturally based affiliation groups. There are the Young Women in Law and the Women's Law Association, for example. There are a number of different groups that you could have an engagement with based on a commonality that you have with the organization, with the memberships. So what do you do with them? Read the subscribe for and read the newsletters. Consider contributing to a newsletter. Do you have something that you want to write about? I can tell you that most organizations are always seeking input on newsletters, for example. Attend events and consider perhaps volunteering to organize an event, or consider volunteering to be a speaker at an event if that's something that you like to do. Build that network and the skills that come from building that network through that kind of participation. Or join a leadership role. Most of these organizations have executives, and they are always looking for people to take on leadership roles for each of those organizations. What's another thing that you can do? Join a networking group. And this is sometimes where it's cross industry professional networking groups. There are so many that are 6 a.m. or not 6 a.m., usually 7 a.m. business networking meetings, breakfast meetings that they have across the province. And those are really, really great because you get to interact with other industries, other professionals. So you build a pipeline and a group of your profession that your professional network that can potentially support the work that you want to do, and you, of course, support the work that they're doing. The other things you can do is attend learning events or conferences. And just like with the professional associations, think about volunteering to help plan one of those conferences. Think about volunteering to speak at one of those conferences. If you do go to a learning event or a conference, take a look if a list of attendees is available in advance. Scan the list if you can before you get there and see if there is somebody that you know a little bit or that you want to get to know a little bit, and try to interact with them when you're at the event. If nervous about going yourself, I always recommend the buddy system. See if you can ask a friend, a colleague to walk in with you if you're nervous about going by yourself, walking into a big event on your own, or attending something without knowing anybody. But if you can't, I was really impressed recently by a young woman who was an undergraduate student who took it upon herself to attend a fairly large social gathering of lawyers recently, and she made an offer. She didn't know anybody. She had no lawyers in the family, wasn't familiar with any lawyers. She went, she sat at a table, got to meet some really great people, and then got to meet others and took advantage of the opportunity of being at an event with people and connecting with them. If you don't want to do it on your own, take a person with you. Other opportunities in terms of ways to grow your professional community would be to create or join pre-existing blogs or podcasts or newsletters. So you might want to create your own, or you might want to subscribe to other people's newsletters or podcasts or blogs. There's so many wonderful law-related or law-adjacent podcasts and newsletters right now that you can become a member of those communities. My book club, for example, is one that is a growing community of book lovers, career conversation lovers, and it really is a wonderful chance to do something different together that we all like. The other thing with regards to newsletters, for example, is if you are interested in a topic or if you know something as an expert in a particular subject area, and you find a podcast that is relevant and related to the area that you're in, reach out and see if you could be invited to speak on the podcast or contribute to the blog post, for example. LinkedIn, of course, is another wonderful opportunity to grow your professional community. And a couple of things with LinkedIn. The photos that you choose, you want to make sure that they are professional and as up to date as possible. Um, when you do post, ensure that it is you, authentic, first of all, that it is accurate, that it is that the tone is one that you are comfortable and happy with. And in terms of reaching out to people on LinkedIn to be connected, the one thing that I would say is when people receive connections, some people will just accept everybody. Other people, however, want to know that there is a reason or some kind of interconnectedness beforehand before they accept. So if there is a possibility for you to write a short note as to, I read your article, or I saw you speak at this conference, or we have a mutual friend or a mutual colleague, give the person a bit of an understanding as to why it is that you are interested in connecting with them. The other opportunity to build your professional network is to have a friend or a colleague introduce you to somebody. So if you know that your friend has done some work with a certain person and you like to learn more about them or like to speak with them, ask the friend for an introduction. And again, that doesn't have to be formal, but it could very well be something that your friend is willing to do. They may not do it right away. You might not get a response right away, and that's okay. I oftentimes have a conversation with people who say, I wrote about a week ago or 2 weeks ago and haven't heard anything. You're reaching out. Be ready for some people not to respond at all, to respond weeks or months later, or perhaps to respond instantly. It really the act of you reaching out or a friend on your behalf reaching out is a really bold first step, but not one that you should be stopped in doing if you haven't heard from one or two or more individuals. You won't grow your uh, professional community if you stop after the first time that you haven't heard from somebody. So keep at it and diligently and consistently grow. When you are interested in meeting with somebody, whether it's been through an introduction from a colleague or a friend, or you reached out on LinkedIn and they've connected, or you have met somebody through a blog or through an event that you were at, and you have now come to the point where you're having an informational meeting. You're meeting them for the first time, you're getting to know them and getting to know the work that they're doing. A couple of things to keep in mind for those informational meetings. First of all, try and do a little bit of, if haven't already done, do some research on them and about their organization so you have a sense of some of the things that connect the two of you in particular. If you haven't already done so, by way of an introduction from a third party, send a professional email to ask to meet. You don't necessarily need a formal agenda, but in your mind, plan how you want to engage with this person. Think about what you want to tell them about yourself. Think about what was it that connected the two of you that you thought you would reach out as a result. What is it that you want to ask them about their career, their organization, the work that they do? And so always respect the time that you've set. If you've set a 20-minute meeting, a 30-minute meeting, an hour meeting, respect that time that another person has given to you. And if your time is coming up, just say, perhaps we can, there's so much that we want to talk about. I really do hope that we can find another time in a month's time or so that we can connect again. And always, always, always follow up with a thank you email, reiterating what you learned from them, what you want them to take away from you, and learn about you, etc. The other thing that you can do to grow your network is to share some information that you found that you think somebody would find useful. So whether it's on LinkedIn to share an article or an event that's happened, or whether you've got something that you know about that is a new case, for example, and you want to share it with your client or your pipeline group, emails sharing information are really, really helpful. Now, whether the other person reads it or not, that's okay. Don't worry about that. If they don't want to receive the materials, then they'll let you know. And of course, you've got to be careful with the provisions these days. If you're sending newsletters, make sure you have permission to be able to send newsletters, etc. But sending a one-off article to a person in your network because you think that they might enjoy it or find something beneficial always is a really good touch to make. The other thing is find the things that you really love doing and then try and create the activity. So, as I said earlier, I love books. And so I wanted to create a book club for people to be able to join and have created a really wonderful community in that respect. Do you like to cook? Do you like to play music? Do you like, and how many sports activities happen in in the city or in the jurisdiction that you're at among lawyers or legal professionals who gather together to play sports? Or music or performing various theater plays, for example. So think about what you want to do, what you enjoy doing, and try and cultivate the opportunities to bring people together in that sense. The other thing that I would say as you think about how to successfully grow your community is keep track of that network. What do I mean? You might have a very fancy contact database that contact management database. Wonderful if you have that opportunity. If you don't, at least create an Excel chart that has your contacts, their names, where they're at, keep it updated if they move around, their emails, and then also include some things about that you may have learned from them. So their children's names and ages, for example, an activity that the person likes to do, their birthday, and send them a birthday message if you can. Being able to track that and also know when you last contacted them, when you last reached out to them, when you last engaged with them is really important to do. And again, keep in mind, some of this will be uh, very frequently. Others will be a little bit more protracted in terms of over a year, over 6 months, or sometimes even longer than a year. But if you at least have a sense of when you last interacted, it'll really help you in terms of saying, hey, last time we talked about 6 months ago, you were telling me about the problem that you were trying to solve. Whatever happened with that? And you can connect again to develop that ongoing back and forth relationship. So, as we're talking about networks, one of the things that comes to my mind is this quote from Walt Disney, and I really, really liked it and wanted to share it with you. It can be overwhelming to start to build your network or to develop it or to keep it growing. And one of the things that I liked about this quote is that sometimes we just have to quit talking and just begin doing. So the opportunity to take one step forward in terms of building your network. Think about the different ways that you may have heard this during this video. What will be that one thing that you will do to begin doing in terms of cultivating your relationship, your professional relationships? In summary, as we think about the three themes within this particular month's materials, one is to reframe your thinking about what a network is so that it reflects that it's a growing, interconnected professional community. That's all it is. It's not yucky. It's actually quite enjoyable when you think about it. Recognize the value of that professional community, both personally and to your career growth and success. Find the ways most authentic to you to develop that professional community and be consistent as you move forward with it. As you put these into place, as you take those steps forward, I want to thank you for watching this video. I want to thank you for being part of my community. And I want you to please stay in touch. I've got my email, you've got my website, you've got my LinkedIn, and you've got my YouTube channel if you want to subscribe there as well. Next month, we are going to be talking about effectively highlighting your experiences. And the focus on that is going to be on resumes and cover letters. Looking forward to seeing you. Reach out if you've got any other questions. Thanks so much.